the core truth about humans, which is that we need each other. We need families, neighbourhoods, groups, communities of all kinds to nurture us and sustain us, to give us that all-important sense of belonging, which is absolutely fundamental to the mental health of a person who belongs to this kind of species. We do have this deep need to feel that we belong, this deep need to be taken seriously by other people who acknowledge us, appreciate us, include us, and so on. These are fundamental human needs because we belong to a social species.
When I look at my kids or their friends, they're a lot more, as you said, open to any thought, any discussion, yes to everything. So a couple of things you can see clearly as you grow. Your mindset becomes more rigid, more rigid, and it's not easy to change.
Yes.
Right? What happens as you grow older?
Yes. The metaphor that I like to use to describe this process, Amit, is the metaphor of the cage. As it becomes more and more complex and more rigid, I see the world through the bars of my cage. 2,000 years ago,
Yes.
planet Earth was hit by a catastrophic climatic event which wiped out 4 of the 5 or 5 of the 6 species of humans. Only Homo sapiens remain because we cared about each other. It turns out kindness is a survival skill. That's what saved us.
Hugh, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Very great pleasure to meet you and to have this conversation. Thank you, Amit.
You've written, I think to my count, 24, 25 books. There's a new one coming out. Can you tell us about that book and what is it about?
My last non-fiction book, my publisher said, look, we know you don't want to write another major work of social analysis, but why don't you just pick 25 famous quotations and write a personal reflection about each of them? Be as subjective and personal as you like. So that book comes out in November. It's called Just Saying.
Okay.
And it's been a lot of fun choosing the 25 quotations and just being spontaneous, just reflecting on what they mean to me, or I'm not trying to do any sort of deep interpretation of what those people themselves might have meant, although there's a bit of that. But mostly it's about what do they have to teach us in 2025.
2025. And so through that book, is there, you want to share some thoughts, insights, or any particular impact you're thinking of the book having on the society?
Because it's so personal, and because each of the reflections is short, it's a very easy read. It's like 25 5 or 6 minute reads. And what I'm hoping is that people might just read one, in any order they can be read, just read one and reflect on it, and then maybe the next day read another one. It's not the sort of, I wouldn't like people to sit down and read the book from cover to cover. It's the sort of book I hope people will say, there's a bit to think about there. I'll ponder that, and then come back to the next day for another dose. So some of the quotes are, everything from Confucius and Mencius to Buddha, but more contemporary, Susan Sontag, Gloria Steinem, Donald Horne, Bertrand Russell.
Okay, interesting.
So it's all over the place.
Oh, I see.
And some of them are, there's one I quoted from an American poet, Anne Sexton. The quote was, "In a dream, you are never 80." So that gave me a chance to reflect on both dreaming and on being 80.
Right.
Or in my case, well over 80. So that was fun. But then the very first one in the book is a Mencius quote. The great man is he who does not lose his child's heart.
Oh, wow.
And so I had a lot of thought about what a child's heart is and why retaining it would be a pathway to personal greatness. And I think it makes a lot of sense because a child's heart is characterized by curiosity, openness, innocence, all the things that we tend to lose as we get older and more atrophied and more prejudiced, more locked into particular positions and points of view. And I think what children have to teach us is be more open, be more available. The child is the person who sees that you're upset and just takes your hand or wraps their arms around your knees. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that quote.
Why do you think that is? That when I look at my kids or their friends, they're a lot more, as you said, open to any thought, any discussion. Do you want to go play there? Yes. Do you want to do this?
Yep.
Yes. Yes to everything.
Yes.
Right. But as you grow older, things change.
Yes.
What is changing? Why is it that? So, a couple of things you can see clearly as you grow. Your mindset becomes more. What's the word?
More rigid.
More rigid, yeah.
Yes.
More rigid, and you're not as. It's not easy to change.
Yes.
Right. What's happening as you grow older?
Yes. The metaphor that I like to use to describe this process, Amit, is the metaphor of the cage. Mm-hmm. What I call in several of my books the mind cage. And it sounds negative. It sounds as though we're prisoners, and to some extent that's true, because as we grow older, in fact, starting really at the age of 3, mm-hmm. when we begin to lay down permanent memory traces, we acquire knowledge from our experience, from what our parents teach us, subsequently what we read or learn from the internet or from a school teacher or some other person. We acquire knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, opinions, and they are like bars of our personal mind cage. They are the pattern of our worldview. So if you think of me now as being caged by all the things I know, mm-hmm. all the things I believe, all my strongest convictions, those things are very comforting to me. Mm-hmm. You could call it a cocoon,
yes.
Except you can't see out of a cocoon. The cage gives us great comfort, gives us a sense of security. I know this, I've learned this, mm-hmm. this is my belief. Click, 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 the bars go in and form this pattern.
Right.
And the problem is that from inside the cage I feel secure and comfortable because I know this stuff. Mm-hmm. This is who I am. Right. The problem is from inside the cage, as it becomes more and more complex and more rigid, I see the world through the bars of my cage. Mm-hmm. So I am imposing my own framework, my own pattern on what I see. It's why people see and hear things so selectively.
Right.
You hear a politician give a speech, mm-hmm. and people who support that politician will say, wasn't that wonderful? Wasn't
yes.
that visionary?
Yes.
I'm inspired by that. And someone in a different mind cage hearing the same speech says, isn't that appalling? This person is yes. prejudiced. You know, this is a danger to democracy.
Right. That's a lot
same
of that
words
these days.
But different mind cages. So what that says to us there are a number of things that follow from that, which I think explain many of our difficulties in society. One thing is, once we've put a bar into our cage, we are very reluctant to take it out again.
Mm-hmm.
So changing our minds becomes a painful process because it involves, the older we get, the more painful it is, because it involves some demolition or some reworking, some rebuilding of the cage. And most of us are a bit frightened of that because it feels like a threat to our comfort and security, which is why listening is so hard for us and becomes harder the older we get. Because when you listen, when you truly listen, the way you are listening to me now, which I appreciate, but when you truly listen to what another person is saying, that means you are open to the possibility of change. And as most of us are reluctant to change, most of us are not good listeners.
Right.
The more we know,
the less we
more
listen.
we are convinced of the rightness of our position, the stronger our beliefs, the worse we become as listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're not truly open. Listening is entertaining another person's ideas. Listening, I mean, if, for example, if another little metaphor, if there was a coat hanging on a peg on the wall over there, and you said to me, Hugh, try on that coat. And I look at it and I say, not my kind of coat.
Right.
No. And in any case, the colour doesn't suit me and it wouldn't fit. You'd be absolutely entitled to say to me, now hold on, go over there, take the coat off the peg, try it on, and then tell me, does the colour suit you? Does it fit? You don't know any of that until you've tried it on. And that's what listening should be. Listening should be trying on the coat.
Right.
Not that we're going to change our minds all the time. 98% of the time we won't change our minds at all. But
Is that a data that 98% of time?
that's what I mean is the vast majority of the time we don't change our minds. But when we listen truly with attention and empathy, then that means we are running the risk of changing our minds. So think of listening as one of the most courageous, risky things we ever do, and we become worse and worse at it as we become more secure and comfortable within the mind cage. And unfortunately, in the contemporary era, when our culture is being more and more dominated by information technology and the use of social media, where more and more people are trading off face-to-face contact in favour of screen-based contact, we become even worse as listeners, because that's not... The act of listening really involves eye contact. You really need to be with someone to be attentively listening to them. When you're just looking at a screen, it's not the same demand at all. Much easier not to engage with it.
Right.
And of course, we're so obsessed with sending data, social media posts,
chats,
and texts, and so on.
Yeah.
That's not what listening is.
Right.
Listening is saying, okay, I'll step outside the comfort and security of my mind cage, and I'll try to imagine, just for this moment, I'll try to imagine what it must be like to be you. What must it be like to be the person saying what you're saying? Can I feel that?
Not easy.
Not easy.
Not easy.
Easy for kids.
Easy for kids.
But not because their mind cages are so unformed.
Not formed yet.
But in adulthood, it's the great challenge.
So, in that case, as humans, are we biologically wired to form this mind cage over time, or is it something that we've learned to do as humans?
Yeah, that's a question I don't think I can answer because it's sort of impenetrable. We do need our. I mean, this is the paradox of it. We do need our mind cages in order to make sense of the world. We need to piece together our learnings, our understandings, our beliefs. That gives us a framework for interpreting what's happening.
The world, yeah.
If we didn't have a mind cage, if we were just open to everything, then everything that anyone said to us would influence us. If you said, if this were a commercial context and you said, buy my brand, I'd buy it. And then when the next person says, buy my brand, I'd buy that. I'd have no basis for making judgments. So we need the mind cage. It's an important part of maturing, but there's a much deeper need that we have, which goes to the heart of any conversation like this, I think, Amit. We can't talk about any of these issues without acknowledging the core truth about humans, which is that we need each other, that we are inherently social beings, that the species we belong to is social, that we need families, neighbourhoods, groups, communities of all kinds to nurture us and sustain us and to give us that all-important sense of belonging, which is absolutely fundamental to the mental health of a person who belongs to this kind of species. We could be some other kind of species and then we wouldn't need to feel we belong.
Right.
But we do have this deep need to feel that we belong, this deep need to be taken seriously by other people who acknowledge us, appreciate us, include us, and so on. These are fundamental human needs because we belong to a social species. So you can see the tension. We need a cage, but on the other hand, we need some openness to each other in order to engage, in order to do what I believe is the task of humans on this planet, which is to build and maintain social harmony. We are social beings.
Yeah.
The species can't survive unless we create and maintain social harmony. 42,000 years ago,
Yes.
just before I began my research career, planet Earth was hit by, this is according to the archaeological record, hit by a catastrophic climatic event, which wiped out 4 of the 5 or 5 of the 6, I'm not sure what the actual answer is, species of humans. There were at least 5, possibly 6 species of humans, Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and 2 or 3 others. 42,000 years ago, the others disappeared and only Homo sapiens remained. Puzzle. Why did our species survive when all the others were wiped out? And that's perplexed archaeologists and anthropologists and others for a very long time.
Yeah.
Now, quite recently, just within the last 5 years, a group of British and German archaeologists working in Europe believe they have uncovered the answer to that puzzle. Their argument is that only Homo sapiens, that rather flattering label we've given ourselves, only Homo sapiens had developed the art of living in small, mutually supportive communities.
Okay.
All the other species were tribal, but they had not developed the art of settling in local communities, sharing resources, caring for the sick, the wounded, etc. In a beautiful phrase in an article written about this research, one of the archaeologists said that it was like a paradox. It was our emotional vulnerability to each other that saved us. Someone else said in a paper about this research, it was a case of survival of the kindest.
Oh.
That in fact humans survived because we cared about each other in this more intimate community-based sense. So I think that's a very important thing to know about our species.
Yeah.
Yes, we're social. Yes, we have mind cages that get in the way, but if we are to survive, kindness is not just a nice thing to do.
Okay.
It turns out kindness is a survival skill. That's what saved us 42,000 years ago. The ability, the essence of kindness being that we are capable of showing kindness towards any other member of the species or of other species, and indeed to the planet that sustains life. We're capable of showing kindness regardless of affection. And I think that's another important learning about what it means to be human. I think of kindness as a form of human love, acknowledging that all forms of human love are wonderful, romantic love, energizing, exciting, etc., familial love, powerful bonds, companionate love. Where would we be without the love of friends? But all of those forms of love have one thing in common. They're all about affection. They're all about how we feel about each other. Even when we use the word love in more trivial settings, when we say, I love dogs or I love chocolate, we're talking about an emotional response to dogs and chocolate. Kindness is unique. Kindness is the only expression of human love that is not related to the emotions. It might be. We might be kind to people we like, but this is the brilliant thing, the most wonderful thing to say about our species. We are capable of showing kindness in the absence of affection. We are capable of being kind to people we don't like. We're capable of being kind to people we could never agree with about politics or religion or culture or football or anything. We're capable of showing kindness to total strangers. Isn't that a fantastic... that's enough to get you out of bed in the morning. No, we belong to that kind of species. And it's what saved us 42,000 years ago.
Right. What does it mean to be kind? What is the actual meaning of kindness?
Right.
Right.
I'm delighted you asked me that because we so rarely talk about it. We just say kindness, everyone knows what kindness is. The original word in English was loving kindness, a very long word. We're all too busy. We don't have time to use a word as long as loving kindness, so we've shortened it to kindness. But to give you my working definition of it, just let me echo what I just said about our species, remembering that we are a social species, remembering that our deepest need is to belong, and that the strongest, most potent, most therapeutic sign of belonging is that other people notice us, other people take us seriously, other people include us, appreciate us, etc. So I would define kindness as anything we do to show other people that we take them seriously. And by anything, I mean literally anything. It can be a smile, a nod or a greeting to a stranger that you pass in the street. I heard a very sad story a couple of years ago about a young man in Canberra who attempted to take his own life by jumping off a bridge. He survived the attempt, and the person who fished him out of the lake said the first thing this young man said to him when he was rescued was, "If someone had smiled at me, I wouldn't have jumped." Now, that's, to me, one of the most graphic stories I've ever heard about the need to be acknowledged. That here is a young man on the threshold of adulthood feeling so excluded or overlooked or ignored that he's prepared to consider taking his own life. Even a smile. Let's remember that. When we pass someone in the street, we smile, we say hello. It doesn't matter if they don't acknowledge us. Mm-hmm. We've reached out, we've acknowledged, we've shown that we know they exist. So it can be that. It can be helping a frail elderly person across a busy street. It can be sharing a sandwich with someone who's hungry. Or, to wind back to an earlier part of our conversation, one of the kindest things we ever do, one of the most therapeutic acts of kindness we ever perform, is listening to each other.
Right.
Because when I listen to you, or when you very kindly listen to me, what we're saying is, I am prepared to take you seriously. I take you seriously enough to bother listening to what you have to say. I am prepared to entertain your ideas. By the way, it may turn out that I disagree absolutely with everything you say. We're about to have a great argument about this, Amit.
Right.
But I'm listening.
Yeah, I heard what you said.
I'm not entitled to have an argument with you until I know exactly what your view is. Mm-hmm. And learning what your view is an act of kindness, an act of generosity. And as I said earlier, it's an act of courage as well. But it's primarily an act of kindness because it's saying, yes, I take you seriously enough to listen to you.
Yeah. I'd like to come back to this, but before, so you're a social psychologist, is how you say your work is.
Yes.
What is the work of a social psychologist in the simplest of the terms?
To try and understand how humans behave in society. Clinical psychology looks at individuals in a social context, but individuals and their personal difficulties. The social psychologist is looking at trying to understand human behaviour in its social context. And that's part of our mind cage, by the way, which means that we are always looking at human behaviour from the point of view of the social context. What are the social determinants of this kind of behaviour? Why are people behaving like that? Sometimes it's to do with poor digestion or something misfiring in the brain, sure. But mostly it's to do with social influences, people's attitudes, people's beliefs, people's behaviour are primarily, overwhelmingly, socially determined. If we're trying to correct poor behaviour in someone, we're very unlikely to correct it by nagging them or pleading with them to change or giving them rational arguments as to why it would be better to behave like this. The way people change is under the influence of changes in their social and physical environment. So we are very environmentally shaped, environmentally determined creatures.
Could we take an example of that? How can we bring that change in an individual? Right.
Yes.
For example, let's say, let's take an example of my elder brother who likes to sleep late. Right. Sleep in, likes to wake up 9, 10 in the morning.
Yes.
Right. I'd like to change that or change that.
Yes.
And whether make him is a right word, or try and influence him
Yes.
in getting up earlier.
Yes.
how do I go about bringing that change
Yes.
rather than nagging him or,
Yes, nagging won't work. We
Right.
know that.
Right.
The history of humankind says don't nag.
Don't nag. Okay. Yeah.
One of the silliest things we ever say is, if I've told you once, I've told you 100 times, which is another way of saying, I have a proposition here which does not work.
Right.
In fact, I've used it 100 times, it still doesn't work, but I'm undeterred. I keep saying it. It's futile.
Right.
No, I think I'd like to know more about the situation, but broadly my response would be do something really interesting, attractive, something that he would love to do before he wakes up,
Right.
and then tell him about it when
Right.
he wakes up. So, oh, you missed out on this
Okay.
and this and this. This is what we did. Or go off and do something that he can't join in because he's still
Interested
in bed.
in it or
So then he'll gradually, well, I want to be part of that, so I'll have to get up.
Mm-hmm.
So the emphasis is not on get up, the emphasis is on join in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, take another big societal example which has happened in countries all around the world, which is how do we tackle the problem of drink driving? Governments around the world have spent billions of dollars on public education campaigns, which have mainly amounted to nagging.
Right.
Just saying, don't do it.
Don't do it.
To no avail. The dramatic change in drivers' behaviour came about through the introduction, in the Australian case, but in many other countries as well, the introduction of random breath testing. So you're pulled over, the alcohol content in your breath is recorded, and you know that the driving environment has changed.
Right.
And that creates enormous social pressure. So now here we are, I don't know how long, 20 or 30 years after the introduction of random breath testing, we have a generation of younger people in particular who automatically think about who will be the designated driver. Don't
Right.
drink.
Right.
It's radically changed our behaviour. And here's another important thing to know about the mind cage. It's radically changed our behaviour, which has, in turn, changed our attitudes. We are a society, broadly speaking, disapproves of drink driving in a way that was not previously the case. And that's a very typical example of the relationship between attitude change and behaviour change. We tend to think, like you with your brother, you think if I could just persuade him
That's right.
to get up early,
Yeah.
then we could do all these things together. If I can change his attitude to sleeping in, that will change his behaviour. No, it's almost always the other way around. If I can change his behaviour, that will change his attitude.
Right.
If I can create something so attractive that he'll want to be part of it when he gets up at 7:30 instead of 10:30, he'll enjoy that. And the experience of that enjoyment, the experience of that new behaviour will change his mind.
Right.
So think of attitudes, think of the mind cage as the product of experience. It's what we have learned, and we have to relearn, not by people pleading with us to think differently, but by exposure to some new experience. When people undergo a religious conversion, for example, that's not usually because someone sat them down and laid out a series of arguments for the beliefs of Hinduism or Buddhism or Christianity, whatever it might be. It's usually because of a life crisis which has made them open to a religious message or the possibility of religious faith because of something they've experienced.
Right. This message itself, so looking at, coming back to your book that's about to come out, when you look at these books, religious books, sacred books, and quotes from Confucius, Plato, and
Yes.
from some of these giants, as we call them. What is it about the message that its message is has more weight, if I can say so.
Why do they resonate?
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I think there's an analogy here with explorers who open up new frontiers and teach us things about the world we live in by breaking new ground, or scientists, researchers, astrophysicists, geologists, biologists, medical researchers who learn more about the nature of life, the nature of the physical human, and that increases our understanding of who we are. But there are also frontiers of the mind. And there are people, philosophers, poets, mystics, novelists, people who work in the realm of the imagination, who cross those frontiers, open up new territory, penetrate boundaries, and seem to be thinking in a new way. And it resonates with us because we recognize something about ourselves in that. Like the Mencius quote that I referred to earlier about the child's heart. You hear that and you immediately think there's something there, there's some wisdom there that I need to understand. Or in the case of some quotes, you read something, there's another quote attributed to Confucius, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves.
Oh, great.
So
Right.
you think, yes, of course.
Yeah.
What that's saying is I'm going to be behaving as badly as the person who has wronged me. Both our reputations will be trashed. Dig 2 graves. I think it's that. I think certain quotations, like in some ways, I suppose well, probably across most cultures, versions of what we've come to call the golden rule, treat other people the way you would like to be treated, comes out of all kinds of religious and philosophical traditions. That immediately resonates with us because we say, of course, that's how I should live.
Right.
Of course I should treat other people the way I'd like to be treated. That's how we will create a harmonious, mutually supportive society. I think coming across a quote that something we'd like to know about ourselves, or something we wish we'd said.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean,
there's
a quote or a story. So let's say, as I have my own mind cage, you have yours,
Yes.
right? A few days ago, I was reading this book on liberty, Stuart Mill's.
John Stuart Mill, yes.
Yes. And while I was reading it, the way he writes on society, the way
Yes.
it should function, and so on, I'd go, "Oh, wow, that's great. That's a great line,
Yeah.
right?" But I'm reading it through my mind cage.
Yes.
There's a book saying similar concept, but it was written in 2023, 24, 25, or more recent book,
Yes.
right? The concept that Mills writes resonates more than a more recent book. And it feels like that reading that book, I'm more open to accepting that line of thought than a more recent book.
Right. Yes.
And whether that is because of my mind cage, or is it because I suspect it is, at least for me, it is because of the language and composition that's been used in the
Yes.
Mill's version
Yes.
versus today's version
Yes.
is what makes me go, oh wow, that's great. That's really good.
Yes.
That resonates more, right?
Yes.
And then I become open to accepting it, and then also further down the line accepting a change that book is suggesting,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What's happening there? What do you think is?
Well, we'd need to spend more time exploring your mind cave. But my suspicion is, if it's 19th or 18th century or first century or beyond, because of your particular cultural formation, you probably are predisposed to accept or to respect ancient wisdom. Rather than Mill is not exactly ancient, but he's certainly
Older
old.
than, yeah.
To respect ancient wisdom more than something that's come out of contemporary culture.
Right.
And I don't think that's surprising. I think a lot of us share that view, partly because one reason why we consult ancient wisdom is because we think wise elders from any tradition in the past, whether religious or philosophical or cultural, may be able to cast light on what seems to be a rather chaotic present.
Right.
We're less likely to trust people like me who are trying to interpret the present because the present seems... we are dealing, for example, in Western societies generally, we are dealing with the problem of increasing social fragmentation, social isolation. Now Australia's number one public health issue, but America's number one public health issue as well. Lots of countries in the world. A weird thing. How can social isolation be our number one public health issue when we are social beings, when we are born to connect, to engage, to communicate? So we're looking at a society that is wounded through fragmentation, troubled, and I think it's very natural for us to think, well, in the past, what did they know that we don't know? How did they manage things better than we're managing them now? What's gone wrong with a species born to connect that has become so disconnected? So I think it's not just you. I think many of us think, okay, what did Jesus say? What did the Buddha say? What did Confucius say? What did the ancients know that we might be able to draw on in order to make more sense of, or in order to live differently? And of course, at the core of ancient wisdom, we will constantly come up against propositions that remind us that we humans exist. When we flourish, we're together. That we exist. In my most recent book, I referred to this shimmering, vibrating web of interconnectedness and interdependence. That's us.
Right.
And when we try to disengage from that web, we pay a very high price in mental illness, among other things. It's very bad for us to think of ourselves as individuals rather than as members. And I think when we go back to previous writings, particularly ancient scripts from various traditions, from almost any tradition, that's the powerful message. The powerful message is you need each other.
Yeah.
I remember the South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu saying something like, "We exist in a bundle of belonging." And that's us. And when we try to step aside from it's a malaise of contemporary society that we become obsessed with my personal identity, my ethnicity, my sexuality, my politics. All those things are important to the sense of self, but they are insignificant compared with our common humanity.
Yeah, it's extremely hard or almost impossible to recognize that in an individual or as a group as a whole.
Yes.
I'd like to come back to that. I'm interested in these patterns, these trends that you mentioned. That, let's say, for example, any idea of a social change that started with one individual, but then slowly grew in the group, right? How does one idea translate on a larger scale in a social trend?
It's a complicated question, and part of the answer depends on recognizing that we are, of course, individuals. We have a strong sense of our own uniqueness, our own independence, and that's true. But there is tension between that and our sense of interdependence, our sense of oneness with humanity. How can I be both a unique individual with unique needs, entitlements, etc., and a member of a family or a neighbourhood or a community of some other kind? How we resolve that tension determines our mental health. So, for example, in the 1930s in Western society, starting really in the UK, there became a fashion for the household to be the nuclear family, mum, dad, and their kids. That is a very modern fashion.
Right.
Previously, to take the Australian example, previously households were more chaotic, more fluid, more diverse, very typically three-generational, and with 5 or 6 persons per household on average. Today in Australia, the average household is 2.5 persons, less than half what they used to be. And that's because we developed that. It's to do with this tension that I described, where we came to the idea of just the household will be just us. It won't include my parents or my grandchildren. It'll just be me and my wife and our children, if any. So that trend serves the independent part of our sense of self and overlooks the interdependent part. So now we've reached the stage, again, just to take the Australian example, but it's not just Australia. It's happening everywhere, in many countries around the world, where the shrinking household has led, in our case, to a situation where every 4th household, and within the next 10 years, if the present trend continues, it'll be every 3rd household, contains just one person.
Oh, crazy.
The fastest growing household type in Australia and in North America and in the UK, the fastest growing household type is the single person household. Now, how did that happen to a social species? The answer is that tension between interdependence and independence has the balance has shifted towards independence.
Okay.
But once we start living in smaller groupings or in solo households, that experience affects the mind cage. So our attitudes change. It's wonderful to live alone. I have a sense of freedom and independence. I love going home and shutting the door and having peace and quiet. That's the new attitude of the solo householder. The solo householder 100 years ago, almost unknown. A very, very weird experience to think of someone who had to live alone. Now, many people choose
Common.
to live alone.
Right.
So that's just one example. Take another example, which is global, which is the choice. It's almost an unconscious choice that so many billions of people around the world are now making to spend more time connecting with each other via a screen-based device rather than
In
having
person.
face-to-face contact based on eye contact.
Right.
Neuroscientists tell us eye contact is the crucial ingredient in human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's fundamental to our mental health that we actually do
at
what
each
we're
other
doing
and
now.
listen.
We actually look at each other. We actually are in the same space at the same time. And yet, we've traded that off in favour of these very clever, very seductive, very
Yes.
attractive devices which have seduced us into thinking that that's communication. And again, this is an experience of changing the mind cage to be thinking this is okay. We now have, sadly, many young people who will prefer. A friend of mine recently told me that his daughter's best friend had lost her father. Her father had died. And so my friend said to his daughter, you better go round and talk to her. You know, she's just lost her father.
Yep.
And his daughter said, oh, no, I'll just send her a text. She wouldn't want me to go round. I'll just send a text. Now, that's a huge change. That's one of the saddest things about society under the influence of social media, information technology in general, is that there's been a huge increase in loneliness coexisting with a huge increase in connection via devices.
Yeah.
So we've to come back to your point. We've traded off the sense of interdependence in favour of the sense of independence, thinking we can just communicate via these devices. Something like 38% of Australian young adults in the 15 to 25 year age group report feeling lonely most of the time. More than 30% of all Australian adults
That's great.
say they feel lonely most of the time, and yet they're connected.
Yeah.
In the case of young people, almost continuously connected. But that's having a profound effect on their mind cage.
Yeah, mind cage. Everything comes back to that mind cage.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder this slow transition from interdependence to more individual based society. Is it more biologically ingrained in us? So when you look at 40,000 years ago and you're looking at evolutionary time, is it so that because of effects of, let's say, danger or resource availability, when you have lack of resources or higher level of perceived danger, there is higher interdependence, and when life is more comfortable, there is abundance of resources, individuality flourishes. Do you think there's
Yeah, I think that's a very accurate analysis of it. Well, first of all, let's acknowledge that, again, neuroscientists tell us it is in our... You can find the cooperative centre in the human brain. That's in our DNA. We are programmed to cooperate. We are not programmed to compete. So competition is a learned social response.
right?
But what comes naturally to us is to share, to cooperate, to engage, etc. And we know that, your example is absolutely right, we know that when there's a crisis, in a community where there's a flood or a wildfire
Yeah.
or a pandemic, what do? We don't become rampantly individualistic. We reach out.
People come together.
We say, oh, can I help? Come, I'll give you a meal or a bed. You've lost your home, or can I come and help clean up? That's humans being true to what a former American President Abraham Lincoln once described as in a beautiful phrase, the better angels of our nature.
Right.
And the important word there is nature.
Nature.
These better angels are part of our nature as humans, but we dismiss them or ignore them when it's all too comfortable and it's all too soft, and we've been allowed to get away with self-centeredness.
Right.
It's very, very bad for us.
Right. Now I have what I need to survive and flourish. I don't need anyone else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Look how well I'm doing all by myself. Yes.
Yeah. In that situation, how does one recognize that what's important is to cooperate, not compete? Especially,
We need a shock. Unfortunately, it's sorry to mention the mind cage again, but the mind cage is not having been conditioned one, it's not going to change unless something happens to us. And that's why history keeps giving us shocks. We do have pandemics, we do have fires, we do have floods, we do have wars. All these appalling things happen to us, and they pull us back to the core of our humanity. It's. I mean, my dream of the future is that we won't need crises and catastrophes to remind us of our deeply human need of each other. We will live as if we understand that. We will live as if we are mutually dependent.
Right. With all your years of experience writing so many books on social sort of fabric of our society and social nature of people, if you had to give one trick or a habit that person can start implementing to start learning how to be part of a group, how to cooperate more than one does now.
Yes.
What would that one advice or habit be?
It would be, without any doubt in my mind, start in the street where you live. The local neighbourhood is the test bed of our commitment to the idea of shared humanity. You buy a house or you rent a house or an apartment, you move in because you liked the area or you liked the house or the apartment. Now you find yourself cast in the role of neighbour. Suddenly you've got people living next door and across the street and so on. You don't know them, but by simply moving in, they have become your neighbours. And because you're human, you have a moral obligation to act like a neighbour. They won't necessarily become friends. You may not respect their culture. You may have different religious convictions. You may have totally different views about how best to raise children or your taste in music or food or anything, but they're neighbours. And until we can learn to create neighbourhoods of people who are diverse but mutually respectful and caring, to make contact with our neighbours, to look out for neighbours. The person at the end of the street who lives alone, I haven't seen that old guy for a little while. Maybe I should go and see if he's all right. A new neighbour moves in, take some lemons from your tree or bake a cake. The state of a nation, the state of a society is a street-by-street proposition. If you would like to change the world, and many of us would, the place to start is where you live. There's no magic wand. It's not a matter for governments. It's not, there's no way of of transforming a society except by saying, I'm going to live as if this is the kind of society I would like to live in. And the kind of society I would like to live in is where when I come to the street where I live, I feel at home.
Right.
I'm acknowledged.
Yeah.
I know who the neighbours are. We look out for each other because we know in a crisis, these are the people. I mean, it's easy to be kind to friends.
Right.
It's easy to be kind to family. The challenge for making the world a better place is to be kind to strangers and especially to neighbours.
Again, ancient wisdom, love thy neighbors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And also reminds me, again, a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the
exactly.
world.
That's exactly what I'm saying, really.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I'm looking at this book of yours, that The Kindness Revolution. Love this book. In this, one of the interesting comments you made is being kind, no matter what the situation is, even if someone is being rude or unkind to you, your duty, in a way, is to be kind.
Yes, absolutely. Your duty as a human.
Yeah.
And it's not transactional. We don't always get kind. This idea, if you're kind to people, they'll be kind to you. I hate that.
Okay.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
They might, and they might not, because they might be in a bad mood, or they might be bereaved or suffering in some other way, and they haven't got the capacity for kindness. It doesn't matter. I'll be kind to them. It's like forgiveness. It's like apologizing. There's no good forgiving people on the assumption that if you forgive them, they'll forgive you.
Right.
That's not transactional.
I see.
So, yes, kindness.
But that's not easy to learn. If you tell someone that, and I remember, again, I'm reminded of another quote from Mahatma Gandhi. If someone slaps on your one cheek, show them the other cheek.
Yes.
One of his comments.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But then nobody would follow that in today's time.
Well, not in practice. I mean, if someone hits you on the cheek, you're not going to say, "Oh, have
the
a
other
go,
one.
the other one."
Right.
I think what that says, and Jesus said something very similar. What that's really saying is, I won't take revenge. I will simply forgive the person who has wronged me,
Right.
because that's the pathway to social harmony. It doesn't mean I'll forget. It doesn't mean I'll pretend that didn't happen. I'll remember it happened. I'll remember that person did that. But I can forgive them, because forgiveness is the only way we release ourselves from victimhood. If you do something awful to me, or say something hurtful, or hit me or something, if I don't forgive you, I'm going to go around thinking, that person really offended me. I'm a victim.
So you're carrying it with
I've been
you.
scarred for life by this treatment.
Doesn't
But
help
if
you.
I forgive, I'm no longer a victim.
Not easy. I mean, it doesn't seem practical. So today's time, what is it? So ideally one needs to cooperate, right? But it's a capitalist society.
Yes.
Right? In a capitalist
Which rewards competition.
That's right. Right. And if you don't have competition, you have monopolies, which of course isn't good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's working the other way around.
Yeah. Look, if we're going to live in a capitalist society, then we want commercial competition.
Right.
Theoretically, at least,
That's-
consumers benefit
Yeah.
from lower prices, etc. That's true, but that's not a model for how we should live socially.
Yeah.
I think that's the way the economy works.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about survival of the fittest, as though that's a sort of Darwinian principle and it's an excuse for
everywhere.
being competitive. Let's remember survival of the kindest in a social setting. Sure, survival of the fittest in a commercial setting. If you can't compete, if you can't produce a unique or attractive product, then you shouldn't succeed. Companies will compete with each other. That's inevitable. Athletes will compete with each other. Two men who fall in love with the same woman will compete with each other. There are areas of life where we do compete. But if our essence is that I am here to build social harmony, I am here to show kindness unqualified, unconditionally, it's just a different mindset in our social interactions.
How do we get to that? So how do we develop that mindset? So increasingly, everyone's life is more and more connected to their jobs. Right?
Yes.
For, I'm sure, most of the people, their job is, in a way, their life. Right?
And that's very unfortunate.
Right.
To define ourselves by our work
right.
is very unfortunate.
And then that job is linked to competition. But then socially, as social beings, we need to learn how to cooperate, be interdependent.
Yeah.
How do we practice sort of marrying both? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, now practice is a very good word. I'm glad you said practice.
Yeah.
Iris Murdoch, the British philosopher and novelist, and I have one of her quotes about humility in my new book. But she said, we learn to love by loving. We learn to be kind by being kind. It's practice. It's saying, when I get up tomorrow morning, it's saying my role as a human being is to build social harmony. And I do that by showing kindness to everyone I meet, even people who are being unkind to me. I'm going to change my world to fit my ideal, and gradually, in the Christian tradition, there's a story, a miracle story, which I regard as a metaphorical story rather than a literal one, about Jesus feeding a huge crowd, 5,000 people, from a lunch provided by one little boy who had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and they fed the whole crowd. Well, I don't literally believe that happened, but I think it's a beautiful story for telling us how acts of kindness multiply. That if I am going to be kind to you, regardless of who you are or how you've treated me, that's going to have a positive influence on you and increase the probability that you're going to show kindness to someone else, because when we see acts of kindness, we recognize humanity at its best. And most of us will naturally, in spite of our selfishness, in spite of our competitiveness, or will recognize that as an ideal. Right. I'd like to be more like that. And we can be. That's one. I mean, if we had been having this conversation for the last hour about climate change, right, and you now said to me, all right, Hugh, what can we do? What can we do to save the planet from overheating? I'd be saying, well, you know, there are huge forces at work. Individuals can recycle and turn off lights and don't fly anymore in jet aircraft and so on. Is this going to reverse the process of global heating? Well, we're not sure. It's very hard. But the thing we've been talking about is not very hard. Society is becoming more competitive, more aggressive. People are becoming lonelier and angrier as a result of loneliness. More socially isolated. All of those things are happening, and we know what to do about it. Right. It's not hard. It's not mysterious. Be kind. Show kindness towards everyone, and you start to change the way the world is. If everyone listening to our conversation said, okay, I can do this. It's not that hard. I'll give it a go. that can, before
Bring
you know where
change.
you are, that's 5,000, 10,000,
Yeah.
millions of people influencing each other.
Wonderful. Yeah. Hugh, I wish we had more time, but I hope that more and more people hear your message of being kind to one another, recognizing that being interdependent, helping each other, forming a group, a community is how we sustain our society and make it a happy place to live. I hope more and more people hear your message and start practicing it in their everyday life. It's yeah. I had a lot more to talk, but maybe another time.
Good.
Thank you so much for your time, Hugh.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. It's a joy talking about such important matters.